Hey Dina, you know what is a big issue these days in nutrition?
Oh, well, let me pick from the list of 56 things. I don't know which one should I pick?
There might be 58. Now, I don't, and when you say 56, it's probably 56 million things,
Oh,
right?
yeah, true, true. Yeah, I wouldn't even know which one to pick right off the top of my head
I
because
know,
there's so
because it kind
many.
of depends on what aspect of nutrition you're talking about, right? So obviously we're dealing with sports nutrition, longevity, fitness, health, all those things. But it's kind of an interesting way I wanted to intro this episode because there are so many things we could choose, right? But
Yeah,
one thing that I personally believe and professionally believe that is kind of a central focus for many different areas of nutrition is inflammation
yep,
because it goes everywhere. It happens
yeah.
everywhere. It's for athletes, it's non-athletes, it's for kids, it's for older people. Like it's disease state. Like we're talking about a lot of different pathways that inflammation actually touches, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like, with inflammation, we're talking more about like chronic inflammation, like I guess you could say internal inflammation. It's not like,
Mhm.
if you sprain your ankle, twist an ankle on a trail run or whatever, and you see some bruising, that's acute inflammation. There's some swelling, but this is more inflammation that's happening inside your body and your arteries and your vessels, and can really mess your body up, right? From a brain perspective, muscle perspective, recovery perspective, organ perspective, like you name it, right? When that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about inflammation, but more importantly, this thing that listeners you may have started to hear more about. It's becoming at least more on my radar. I'm sure it is on yours also, D. But what we're talking about today are what are called pro-resolving mediators, PRMs, or sometimes they're referred to as specialized pro-resolving mediators, SPM. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you see PRMs or SPMs. They are talking about the same thing. It's just a little bit different term used to describe them. Now, these are important because here's the cool thing. We're talking about inflammation. We're talking about these pro-resolving mediators, which kind of, if you kind of look at it in the name, they mediate inflammation. But they're bioactive lipids, so fats that play a role in resolving inflammation in the body, right? So, and we're not going to go down the how much do we need to resolve inflammation in the body, because obviously, just as a side note, real quick, our body has some great anti-inflammatory processes that it uses to reduce inflammation. But sometimes, life throws us some curveballs. We train a lot, we get super stressed, low sleep, whatever, and we have too much inflammation that our body's internal mechanisms can handle. This is why we're talking about these PRMs or SPMs. So these are interestingly produced from polyunsaturated fats, which I find very interesting because I've told you this, D, and I can't remember if I've shared this on any episodes, but I did two theses in grad school. I had two master's degrees, and both of them were on omega, or I should say, polyunsaturated fats, omega 6 and omega 3. So when I started reading about this, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally remember this stuff, right? But here's the cool thing about PRMs or pro-resolving mediators is that they're actually made from fats. Okay. So let me get through this whole logistical thing and then we'll bring it into like real life. Okay. So there are four main categories of these pro-resolving mediators. Okay. Remember they're made from polyunsaturated fats. And there's four categories. There's one that are called lipoxins, and those are made from arachidonic acid, which is an omega-6 fat. If you don't know what these are yet, just bear with us. Just let me get through this part, right? The second category is called resolvins, and these are made from the omega-3 fats EPA and DHA. You may have heard about those because you may actually supplement with those. The third category is protectins, which is derived mostly from DHA. And then the last one are called myrcins, which are also derived from DHA. Okay, here's the deal. We've got four different categories. Three of them are made from omega-3 fats. One of them is made from omega-6 fats. Okay, so that's kind of the background that I kind of wanted to get out of the way. They're made from fats. They're made from these omega-6s, omega-3s. We're not going to go down that road because some of you are like, oh, are they going to talk about seed oils? No, we're not.
Mm.
We're just talking about PRMs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't
so
want to open that can of
we're
worms right
not
now.
opening that. No,
No.
no, 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 no. We're talking about inflammation. We're talking about really a class of fats that can help improve the inflammatory response in our body, right? So that's kind of what these SPMs or PRMs are doing, right, Dee?
And I think, Bob, and we won't go into, like all the uber science here, but from the name implied pro resolving, this is a different mechanism. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think there's the anti inflammatory component, but the proactive nature of these
Yes.
compounds. So it is different than just saying, like, this is just another general antioxidant
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a different mechanism, which we don't have to talk too much about, but just the fact that this is acting differently or
Yes.
uniquely in the body.
It's a good point because I've had actually a lot of people say, well, wait a second. It's doing the same thing as my fish oil supplement or salmon is doing or whatever, right? My omega-3 supplements I'm taking. Yes and no. Like to your point, it's a
Yeah.
different mechanism in the body. So actually they are if you're like these PRMs, these pro-resolving mediators are enhanced when you eat these types of lipids in your body. So
Hmm.
obviously the message is yes, try to eat more omega-3 fats because not only do you get those great anti-inflammatory mechanistic approaches and benefits of that, but you're also making more pro-resolving mediators, which have a different mechanism of addressing inflammation in the body. So
Yep.
it's kind of like a cool kind of a 1-2 punch, right? The more
Yeah.
of these kind of foods you eat, these polyunsaturated fats, you're getting kind of a double whammy, a good whammy for resolving inflammation in your body and helping the immune system functioning.
I wonder, Bob, talking about food sources then, because we've mentioned the types of fats, but for
Mm-hmm.
some that might like, I kind of heard these words, but I don't know what polyunsat or arachidonic acid. What do I eat, or
Yes.
do I only supplement? Can I get enough through food?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. So let's go to foods first. So obviously we try to focus more on the omega threes only because okay, so let's back up. Polyunsaturated fats, we're talking mostly about omega 3 and omega 6, right? Are
Yeah,
there others? Yes, but we're just talking about 3 and 6 right now because those are kind of the ones that are in the press a lot. That's kind of related to the story that we're talking about today. And please fill in as I go along, D, but the omega 3s we try to put more emphasis on these days because most individuals in the United States have such a low intake of omega 3 rich foods. And when we list these foods, you'll see why, right? If like the best omega 3s are from fatty fish,
yeah,
right? So your salmon, your mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring, those are like if you've ever heard the SMASH acronym, SMASH fish are the
yeah.
ones that have the highest omega-3, right? So and there are others that have them, like trout is a great source too, but it just kind of rolls down. But here's the thing. So when you say that, and when I present that to my clients, they're like, oh, well, what else can I do? Because not a lot
Mhm.
of people like eating fish these days, right? So that leads us into plant sources of omega 3s, which I will pass the baton off to you, D.
Well, I mean, I know because I'm always like, just eat the fish.
I know.
Because you get
Exactly.
the most bang for your buck.
You
But
do.
you can still look to some of the plant sources like the walnuts, the hemp hearts. I mean, a little bit from your olive oil, right?
Hmm.
And some of
Yep.
those things. I also worry for those that are doing really low fat diets, Bob,
Yeah.
like, oh, working with that mindset and working with the even genetic profile of the person to
Hmm.
show and considering the athlete and their training load and all of those variables is like the daily nutrition pattern in terms of fat content. And then kind of picking on like, how can we optimize that fat intake level and the quality of the fats that we're consuming to achieve this outcome, working with inflammation at that systemic level.
Yeah, it's a great point. And the foods you listed, the plant-based ones, they're fantastic. There's a lot of benefits to those, but listen, they just don't have a lot of omega-3s, and the conversion rate to omega-3 once you eat those is very low compared to like a fatty fish. And that's why, both of us are like, yeah, please just eat. Can we eat the fish? Can we somehow figure out how to eat the fish? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, not that we're going to go down this route too much, but I think that's why a lot of individuals take omega-3 supplements, right? So fish oil supplements because of that fact, right? And there's a
Yeah.
lot of different benefits and reasons to take that. We won't get into that on this episode. But we do believe in some testing, some omega-3 index testing, obviously some genetic testing before really diving into that too much. But back to the food thing. So there are also, like, you can eat antioxidant rich foods like fruits and veggies and nuts. Those will help support the production of PRMs, right? So they
That's
kind
true.
of work
Yeah.
hand in hand with those omega-3s and even the omega-6s. So yes, we still, and isn't it funny? Because here we're promoting, fatty fish, fruits and veggies, nuts, and all those great foods, which have a host of different benefits. But all of these can help increase the PRMs that you're getting through food and thus help your body reduce the inflammatory processes. Now, I think another interesting thing is that while it's easy to consume these foods if you like them, it's very difficult to consume a high amount of these foods, right? Like,
Yeah.
who eats salmon 7 days a week? I
Right.
don't even think I could do that. And I can go pretty boring with my nutrition plan. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of rough, like maybe after the first couple weeks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is where we look to supplementation to come into play. I was looking for the podcast we did with Tavis
Oh, yeah.
Piatoli talking
Yeah.
about omega-3s and fish oils and things because he made a lot of good points and about like
Hmm.
the amount of salmon. And that was a little bit different context, but as it relates to even cardiovascular health and some other things. But getting a handle on what is the intake from one's food
Mm.
pattern and then looking to supplementation to figure out that right range of dosing or the sources and considering all of that to put together more of a personalized plan, I think is something here that we would, of course, advocate for.
Yeah, and we're not going to go on PRM supplementation on this episode. We're going to devote a whole entire or a different episode on that. So stay tuned for that in the future. But let me bring it back to, remember when I told you the four categories of PRMs? Three
Yeah.
of them come from omega-3 fats. So this is interesting to me. So out of the four, 75% of them come from omega-3 fats. 25% come from omega-6 fats. So let's not forget about the omega-6, but this is why we're emphasizing omega-3 fats so much, to eat those foods rich in omega-3s, because you're going to get more PRMs for them. But let's not leave omega-6 out of the conversation, right? I think it's still important to mention for sure,
Mm.
even though we're trying to increase the omega-3 status of most individuals. The omega-6 fats, the arachidonic acid. So these are things like, you've got some nuts, you've got like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, even your oils like soybean oil, safflower, sunflower, those kind of oils, right? Those things do have omega-6. And, my take is that we don't want to overdo the omega-6. We want to emphasize more the omega-3, but again, you're still going to get a little bit of a benefit from eating those kind of foods in terms of making that specific PRM category, which, remember, are lipoxins, which come from the omega-6. So I didn't want to discount
Yeah.
omega-6D, but I wanted to more highlight the omega-3s because the majority of PRMs come from omega-3 fats.
Thank you for that because I think with all of the attention on seed oils and things, they just get
Mm.
black and white, demonized,
They
or
do, yeah.
some of those, like the root source of the omega-6 gets just blanket, flat out, like don't consume any of
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
And of course, the processing and degree of processing is another angle we could tangent talk on, but
It
into for
depends on
this.
the context, right? Like, what are we talking
Yeah.
about? Are we talking about
Yeah.
inflammation and PRMs? Or are we talking about other
Right.
things, right? I think but again, that's kind of why we're focused on PRMs in this episode, and why we're not picking on the whole seed oil topic, because this is our context, right?
Question for you. Do you feel that all active and athletic people should care about inflammation regardless of age?
See, because I was going to bring that up in my answer, but now, okay, regardless of age, that is a really good question, D. I will say this, in my brain, what I'm going through now is all the individuals I work with from young to not young, right? And let's take age out of it, because I mean, obviously that matters, because as we age, the biology of aging, we
Yeah.
have some biological things that are going against us more so,
Hmm.
right? But what I'm seeing even at younger ages is the stress response in the body is actually increasing inflammatory responses quite high. right? And quite well, if you will. And I see that from blood work, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh yeah, you're stressed, you have more inflammation. Like we see that on blood work and even young individuals, like young athletes, which is kind of scaring me because it's so many things happening. But the easy answer to your question is yes, I think everybody needs to particularly pay attention to inflammation. I'm going to go on a soapbox really quick because I do believe in the chronic disease states,
Mm.
or states, I should say. Inflammation is a precursor to a lot of these disease states. And a lot of people argue, well, it doesn't matter if you're in your teens or 20s. Well, I heard this saying, or I forgot who said it, but something to the extent where, heart disease in your 50s actually started in your 20s, or
Oh, yeah.
dementia in your 70s actually started in your 40s, or, something along those
Right.
lines. So the point is that what you do at a younger age, biological age, is going to affect your older biological age self. So I believe everybody should be putting inflammation on at least the top 5 nutrition challenges, if you will, for many different reasons. And like, I don't think there's one thing you cannot tie inflammation to. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm gonna put a little challenge out there to our listeners. Here's the thing, listeners. I do not know everything, and I want to know more. I want you to go to our Patreon account, patreon.com/ISN podcast. Join our free community if you don't have not already joined it. And I want you to help me understand if there is something in our body that where inflammation does not affect, because I am not familiar with that. And I would love to hear from our listeners. If you're like, oh, hey, Bob, you like, duh, you forgot the easiest one, blank,
Yeah.
blank, blank, right? Tell me about it. Because everything that I'm reading is mostly pointed to inflammation, D. Like it could be anything from injuries to heart disease I mean, diabetes to dementia. I mean, everything. But even athletic performance, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing
Yeah.
a lot of blood lipid or blood levels of inflammatory markers on college athletes, on professional elite athletes, on Olympians. And these inflammatory markers are scaring me. They're so high.
When you said, "Ooh, I'm going to put a challenge out there," all of a sudden my mind was clunking along trying to
Yeah,
think of something, Bob. And I
I
went
know,
from
right?
head to toe, like I was going to make a joke about my big toe, but
Yeah.
honestly, it's an inflammation thing. Like
Yeah.
the nail that fell off from the run I did
Oh,
6
yeah.
months ago, like, anyways, I
Right.
couldn't I couldn't think of anything because I could tie it to inflammation. So I am
Yeah.
curious what the
I'm
listeners
curious
are
too.
going to
And
come up
there's
with.
there's going to be someone who's uber smart in our community.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, like please,
Yeah.
like I want you, you're not calling me out. Like I want to know. Like again, maybe I'm just in my little tunnel looking at these
Yeah.
things in just 2 areas or whatever, but I would be really curious to learn if there are no responses in the body, or not even responses, but things that happen in the body that are not touched by inflammation. I don't think there are.
And yeah, just like in the real life, application of all of this, thinking of the role of inflammation that you are just bringing out, right? It can tie to everything from disease to, like our recovery from exercise. So on a micro scale, a macro
Mhm.
scale of our longevity, our athletic performance, there's a
Yeah.
lot to the inflammation side. So these pro-resolving mediators, or the SPMs, PRMs, whatever we want to call it, like they definitely can support our day to day living and our long term health and longevity.
Again, super helpful, knowledgeable episode. Hopefully, everyone thought that. I thought it, but everyone, hopefully, you got that too. But I do want to follow up with a specific episode on supplementation of these in the
Yeah.
future. So,
Okay.
listeners, expect that somewhere in 2025, before we round out this year, we will be identifying that, because I do think, because we've talked about omega 3s and food and supplements before with Tavis, right? I also want to hit this because again, it's not new, but it's so apparent these days how popular it's getting that I think we really need to dissect this a little bit on an upcoming episode.
Hmm.
So listeners, with all of that said, we again appreciate your time and just supporting us in terms of, pushing the play button week after week after week. Head on over to our patreon.com website or platform. It's patreon.com/ISN podcast. Again, interact with us. We've got a free community. We've got some paid communities. Remember, we are not, or we do not accept sponsors for our podcast. So anything that we can do to help support you and you help support us, we would certainly appreciate. And with our 2 upper level communities and memberships, they are a couple dollars a month, but that helps us keep the podcast going so we can remain independent and bias free. With all that said, we will catch you on the next episode.